He lived in silence, not the silence of peace, but the silence of someone who had been forgotten. The only sound that broke this emptiness was the clinking of a rusty chain, dragged by the wind, hitting the hard ground again and again. There, trapped in a small patch of dry earth, stood a thin dog. His fur was matted and dirty, his ribs clearly visible beneath his skin. His eyes no longer carried the sparkle of life. They were tired, almost lifeless, as if asking every passerby the same question: why me? For years, his existence had been reduced to this: waiting for a plate of food that was never enough, waiting for a bit of water, even if muddy and stale, waiting for a kind hand, a gesture of affection that never came. The sun burned his skin during the day. At night, the rain soaked his wounds, and the cold made him shiver uncontrollably. There was no shelter, no comfort, no escape. And yet, deep inside those sad eyes, a small flame still flickered: hope. Sometimes, voices could be heard passing by. At those moments, he would lift his head, stretch his neck as far as the chain would allow, and wag his tail weakly, dreaming that maybe, just maybe, someone would stop. But no one ever did. And each time, the chain pulled him back, a cruel reminder that freedom was nothing but a dream. But one day, everything changed. A simple car pulled up near the abandoned place. From it, several people stepped out, carrying boxes, ropes, and tools. They were volunteers from a rescue organization. The dog panicked. He pulled back, trying to make himself invisible. The bark that escaped his throat was not a bark of aggression, but of pure fear. It was as if he was saying, "Please, don't hurt me." One young woman knelt down. She didn't rush. She didn't scare him with sudden movements. She simply stretched out her hand, her voice soft, calm, filled with patience. The dog stared at her, trembling. He wanted to believe, but his past had taught him a painful lesson. Human hands could hurt. The air was thick with tension. He hesitated, took a step back. Then, slowly, almost imperceptibly, he moved forward, as if choosing to give trust one more fragile chance. That was the moment. One of the rescuers positioned a heavy bolt cutter around the rusty chain. The metal resisted, groaning as if unwilling to let go of its prisoner. And then, snap! The sound echoed through the air like the cry of freedom. The chain that had held him captive for so many years was gone. For a moment, he stood frozen, not quite believing it. Then he stepped forward, one step, then another. He sniffed the air, pawed at the ground he hadn't touched in so long. His eyes widened, and for the first time, he seemed to see the world for what it truly was. For the very first time in his life, he was free to decide where to go. He was lifted carefully into the car. Inside, waiting for him, was something simple but precious beyond words: a bowl full of food. He devoured it desperately, afraid it would vanish at any second. Every bite was the taste of survival. Then came the bath. White foam slid down, washing away years of dirt and neglect. Beneath the grime, his real color slowly appeared. His eyes still held a trace of fear, but now there was something else too: relief. It was the first time in his life that human hands touched him, not with violence, but with care. At the veterinarian's office, his wounds were treated. He received vaccines, medicine, and, above all, affection. And little by little, The tail that had been lifeless began to move, first timidly, then stronger, as if whispering, "Maybe I am safe after all." Have you ever seen an animal transform right before your eyes? Have you ever witnessed the power of love to bring someone back to life? If you have, you know how much it matters. And if you haven't, share this story, because your voice can inspire someone else to rescue a life too. Time passed, and with it, the transformation became undeniable. The dog, who had once been nothing more than a silent prisoner, was now a symbol of resilience. His ribs no longer showed. His fur shone in the sunlight. His eyes gleamed with joy. He ran across open fields, jumped with excitement, wagged his tail endlessly. He played with other dogs, leaped into the arms of the volunteers, curled up in a soft bed at night. It was almost impossible to believe that this happy, radiant animal was the same creature who had once been chained and forgotten. But it was. And that made his story even more powerful. From a lonely prisoner, he became a living proof of strength. The same dog who had once known nothing but pain now knew the sweetness of being loved. And as the sun set and he lay peacefully on the grass, one message was clear. Every chain that is broken sets a heart free. This story reminds us that everyone deserves a second chance. Just like him, thousands of animals are still out there waiting for someone to believe in them. If his transformation touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Share this story. Together, we can give a voice to those who cannot ask for help.